Well, great to be here, everybody. Dominic and I are we're just so pleased to bring you something fresh, something that we've both been seeing and exploring in recent weeks and months. And I don't know where you want to start, Dominic, but I kind of felt like as I was walking along the beach this afternoon, I kind of fell into this feeling of just aliveness, aliveness and joy, and I think that the more people are able to see that that's not extraordinary, that's actually quite ordinary, that's who we are, the nicer life gets.
That resonates. Yes. And I think that what I would say is for everybody joining, just to get yourself present and get yourself here, is to take a look at what we're talking about when we talk about joy, because it never leaves you. It's never away from you. It's as close as your breath. And so something had you register for the webinar. You saw that webinar, and it was, it appealed to something. It resonated to something within you. And so I just invite you to, as you think about the next hour, what would be your intention for that? What appealed to you? What would be your intention? How could this be a joyful hour? So just think about that and be in the session for the next hour, coming from that place.
So important, so important. So, and for those of you that maybe just are, most of you probably know us at this stage, but Dominic and I we're not going to go into our whole biographies or anything, but we've been mastermind partners for a couple of years. And in that time together, we've explored different subjects. And we've gone through different phases in our own businesses and our own lives. I've been witness to Dominic really putting together incredible courses and a Facebook group and growing a community and becoming so alive with what he's got to offer around his understanding with Abraham and the principles and his own ability to coach professionally. And so we've both had regular contact. And you know, in recent months in my own situation, you know, Dominic, I was really able to lean on Dominic quite strongly as my mastermind partner, you know, after the death of my fiance. And I was really able to see more deeply and feel more deeply feelings of joy as a result of what we were exploring on our calls. And so we kind of thought, why are we keeping this to ourselves? You know, surely there are others out there that would love to feel more alive on a daily basis and would love to live more from feelings of joy. And I think what's been poignant, at least in my own journey, is that I had no idea I could live in such feelings of aliveness and joy after the death of my partner so suddenly and so shockingly. So for me, you know, I'm seeing on a deeper level, and I've shared this with Dominic, I'm seeing on a deeper level just how much these feelings of inspiration, aliveness and joy and happiness are not dependent on your world being perfect, not even dependent on you having the right partner, or not even dependent on you, you know, having the right amount of money in your bank account or the right number of kilos on the scale. And so, you know, this is really what we want to begin to to share with you today. And we're going to share 3 simple steps that we find are condensed, if you like, as a way for living more from a place of joy. Have I covered that correctly,
Well,
Dominic?
thanks for that, Grace. And as most of you know who are familiar with the works of Abraham and Sydney Banks, when we share 3 steps, we made them up, right? Because there are no steps, right? There's no steps to joy because you're already joy. But it seems to be easier to get interest from a broader community, not those of you, of course, who are deeply in an understanding of the teachings of Abraham and Sydney Banks. But for others, it seems to be easier to understand that there's some steps or something to learn. One of the things you'll conclude by the end of this is there's nothing to learn. But anyway, but we will cover them anyway. So we're going to cover these 3 steps. But I want to share from my perspective what this gift that it has been to be with Grace and be mastermind partners over the past couple of years. Well, it's kind of interesting how it even started. I mean, I think you came up with the idea. We both came, but the idea came out of somewhere and we began these conversations. But I never expected how, mutually beneficial these would be and how much growth that they would provide. And so, this is the whole, lesson around like just trusting guidance, trusting the impulse, these ideas that sometimes come. And so I've as a result of being with Grace, I mean, I've had my own exploration and journey, and this has been hugely beneficial just in the expression I've been able to access in terms of creativity and coming alive, as Grace said, I just can't believe the stuff that's happened, right? I started the Facebook group Ask and It Is Given as a direct result of the mastermind. It was out of our conversations that suddenly this idea came, and anyway, and more, like all these webinars and all this stuff that goes on. So it's amazing the explosion of creation and aliveness that came out of that. But then I'd say we were probably a year and a bit into our connection. And when Grace's fiance, Francesco, died of a heart attack, that was something, because I mean, it was such an emotional experience. And I would say I probably get accused a lot in the way that I teach and communicate this understanding that I'm all about the light, the positive, the joy. And so when this happened, this was no longer could you be theoretical about the light. No longer could you be theoretical about the idea that love and joy is within you. And what an incredible privilege it was to be with Grace and to hold the space through so many tears and kinds of emotional conversations where I was just in awe of how that joy, that well-being, that aliveness goes nowhere. It goes nowhere under any condition. It never disappears. and wow, the emotions that we kind of like talk through, and thank you for trusting me with that, Grace, and to be able to talk about all that. But what a gift it was for me, and I am so grateful that it has found expression through Grace's writings. If there are those of you who have not been exposed to Grace's writings in this time, we'll get you a link or something. They're often posted in my Facebook group, but you cannot, I just can't even imagine how those writings navigate the truth of the grief and the sorrow and the mourning. And I don't know how you do this while recognizing the truth of the love, the aliveness, and the joy that hasn't gone anywhere. And I've just learned something about how this is unconditional. Like, really, it's not a theory. It is unconditional. Who we are never goes anywhere. Yeah, so I wanted to add that.
Beautiful. Well, one of the things, Dominic, and thank you for sharing that, and what's come to mind as we're talking there is, one of the things that we explored quite a bit that I find helpful, and I think others will too, I guess it's one of our steps, if you like, is we discussed the feeling a lot. And I wonder if maybe we share a little bit about that as step one.
Great.
if we're gonna pinpoint it, because that piece around the feeling really helped me not get lost in blah feelings. So yeah, do you want to share a little bit on that? Because
what we saw the feeling is it. What we're talking about, who you are, is the energy of all things. Sydney Banks said that. That's kind of the label he gave this. He said the energy of all things, that which people call God. He said God is the energy of all things. You are an aspect of that energy. So that's the truth of who you are. And so I've shared before, so that who you really are is never changing. That is a constant, no matter what else goes on. How do you know that is a constant? How do you know that that energy is always there at your core? Just how you know is to check if you're breathing. That's sort of the fastest way to know. So you just sort of check if you're breathing, and if you're breathing, and by the way, if you're breathing and it's not you that's doing that, so if you're breathing and it's not you that's doing that, so then there is this energy that is breathing you. And if you cut your finger and it heals, something does that. I don't know that any of you are actually doing that. I think there is something doing that. So this energy is the you that is never changing. And so how this relates to feeling is that energy is a very high vibrational movement. And we would call it, people have called it, love, joy, peace. So it's labeled in different ways. It's none of those things, but that's an attempt at labeling it. How that relates to us is as an aspect of all of that. In any moment, that is who I am, never changing, constant. And then in any moment, I focus around here. Depending how I focus, I activate a vibration within me of what I am focused upon. So if I'm focused upon how upset I am about whatever's going on there, that becomes a different energy, which I activate within me. And so what it is that you are feeling is you are feeling the current focus that has been activated within you relative to the unchanging truth of who you are. When you talk about feeling and emotion, and Sydney Banks said, it's in the feeling, there is guidance in the feeling, follow the feeling, he said. Why? Because the truth of who you are never changes, and your focus with thought moves around all over the place. And you will always feel what you activate with your focus. And as you feel the vibration of that relative to the truth of who you are, you will either feel more or less harmony with it. If I look over there and my feeling is one of appreciation and love, it will harmonize with the truth in me. If I look over there and what I focus upon is how much I hate that and hate them that are doing it, that is a very different feeling. That is a very different vibration that would be very disharmonious from the truth that is constantly within me. And that is the feeling. And so when you feel what you feel, you are feeling the way that you are focused. You are feeling the way that you are thinking. And that focus is letting you know in every moment of now, whether you are looking, thinking, moving in a direction that is going toward all that you are, or is it moving away from all that you are? There is your guidance. Move toward joy, follow your bliss. Coming alive, more aliveness is in the direction of joy. Away from it, there's less. Yeah.
I love that. It's so clear and simple, Dominic. You know, it's a game changer. It really is. It really is. So, and we're going to take some questions, by the way, in a little bit. So, you know, we're sharing these steps with you, and then we want to invite you to share your questions or your comments or anything that will that stands out for you. And certainly having that attention to the feeling has been really supportive on my journey and on the journey with the clients that I work with too. You know, I find people are so interested in the content of their mind and what's happening in their head that they forget to listen to the feeling that they're living in, to experience the feeling more. And you know, I'm sort of brought back to the memory of just feeling and living in a feeling of love and joy and peacefulness, particularly in the initial weeks and months after Francesco died. And I noticed that went away and it came back, and it went away and it came back, and it was very much based on, you know, where was I putting my focus, as you said, Dominic. Where was my focus going? So having that reminder and having that understanding of the feeling, oops, that's my dog, having that reminder and having that constant refocusing really made a huge difference. Beyond feeling, we had another step.
Yes. Yes. And this one is a question that in every Abraham workshop everyone I've watched, everyone I've participated in, Abraham tends to start with this question. And I used to just think it was some goal setting question. I didn't know what it was. And then after the 3 principles, I thought it was a dumb question. And then I've since sort of realized what the question. So they always start with this question that says, do you know what you want? Do you know what you want? And what they're pointing to in the question is, what is it that you desire? And I thought, well, what's that got to do with anything? Because anything I want, this is before I had a greater realization of who I really am. I just thought, well, anything I want is because, I'm insecure, and I think that, and I'm afraid of things or worried about things. So as a result, and as a reaction to that insecurity, there's a bunch of things that I want, but who cares? And why would Abraham be asking this question? They're a spiritual teaching. And I kept wondering about this question. Why do they keep starting with this question? Do you know what you want? And it was interesting, and we're going to explore this in our workshop and actually do a bit of a deeper space to look and dive into, do you know what you want? Because the answer to that question does not come from the finite perspective. The only answer to that question coming out of the finite perspective is some useless answer, which is a complete reaction to your insecurity. I want more money, and I want to be in a relationship because I'm feeling lonely, and all these other things. But there is a deeper place to look for, do you know what you want? From the perspective of all that you are, from the God that you are, as you are expressing through this physical body. Do you know what you want? Because, and that question is actually asked of the finite you. It is not asked of the all that you are. All that you are always knows what they want. But the finite you is often the last to know. Although you're the one who kind of decided, you're the one who kind of refined that. But do you know what you want is really asking you about what is your desire. And when we say desire, we're now back to a feeling. And what that feeling is this all of you that is wanting more life, more expression through you. This all that you are that is wanting to come more alive through you. And you feel that as desire. That's how that feels to you. So when Abraham was asking, do you know what you want? The real question was, can you feel that? Can you feel that desire within you to come more alive, to express more of all that you are? For no reason other than for the joy of it. Because all that you are does not want anything because it needs it. It wants, it desires for the joy of self-expression for no reason other than to bring more of itself and express more of itself and experience more of itself through you, through this finite perspective that is you. And that's what it means to come alive with the joy of who you are. And of course, to know that, you need to know what it is that you want. What is it that you want? What is it that you desire? And we don't mean that the way you think we mean that. So we'll do a bit of an exercise to really explore that. That is the truth of who you are and the intention and focus within this physical existence.
That's, yeah. I love the clarity around that, Dominic. And obviously in the workshop, that we'll talk about the workshop a bit later, but obviously in the workshop, we'll be able to we'll be able to take people through the exercise more fully, that they have that clarity. I know on my journey, I used to judge the desires that I had as quite frivolous, and well, that's not going to make you any money, or that's not, you don't need that grace. And yet the feeling that often was arising in me was that feeling of inspiration and aliveness when I was tuned into that desire. And I later find this interesting, Dominic. I later find out, because I love language, and I love obviously Italian and Latin and all of that. And I find out that desire comes from the verb desidere, which means from the Father, as in from God.
Wow.
And after I kind of after I learned that little piece of information, I stopped judging desires as wrong and started seeing them as clearly planted from the Father, from God, from Spirit, from that alignment. And I think what can happen sometimes is we've been so conditioned to focus either on everything else or everyone else that we get a little bit tuned out of what we really know would bring us joy, what we really would love to do, what we really desire. So I'm excited about this particular area, because I think our life runs more smoothly and works more fluidly, gracefully, as we begin to get honest with ourselves and go in the direction of those desires. So yeah.
Wow, you're holding out on me, Grace. Why haven't you ever said that before?
I never know what I'm going to say.
That is so powerful. That just hit me. That translation of desiderio. It would be the Italian version of it, right? But that from the Father. Wow. Okay, that is totally resonating. Totally makes sense to me. Yeah.
One of the ways that I see people kind of, what's the word? Never disconnected from this Father or the Spirit, but rather sort of perhaps tuned out a little bit from the desires, is through what many of you on the call here will have heard me describe as Bob the drunk guy talk in your head. So one of the reasons that we don't hear our desires or notice them or get to focus on them more fully is because we have this constant chatter going on about what's right and what's wrong and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And if you can imagine, as the example, you're walking down a street, and if you saw, let's say in the example of a drunk man lying on the edge of the road, he's usually shouting obscenities. I mean, we have one locally here in Ostuni. He's a parking attendant. He's kind of drunk all day. He's quite harmless, but he's shouting obscenities most of the day. And whilst I might give him €1 or whatever, or greet him, I would never go to him for advice, ever, 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 ever. Not even about where to put my car. And yet we innocently are doing this with the drunk in our head, who's shouting obscenities and judgments and insecurities all day long. And we're kind of innocently going over there and unconsciously wanting to know what that drunk person in our head thinks about our desires, and listening intently to his or her opinion about our joy and all of that. And listen, I got into a bit of that too, even through Francesco's death. There were times that I heard the drunk in my head saying, "You shouldn't be this happy. Your fiance just died. You know, you shouldn't be feeling this alive and inspired. writing like this, this is dishonoring what's happened. And so again, if I didn't have a little bit of space from that noise, and I were to completely pay attention and focus there the whole time, there's no way I would be experiencing feelings of aliveness and joy. There's no way any of us could. So if I have to pin this down a little bit, I would say step 3 is really getting beyond the insecurity in your head to accessing those feelings of joy and aliveness and desires that are already there. Have I summed that up properly?
Oh, love that. Yeah, love that. That is so great. We call this step would be the step of allowing the voice that is who you really are to come through you, inspire you, to come alive in you. And that is something you allow. You don't do anything for that because it's always there. And as Grace said, is you could actually hear it if you weren't so engaged listening to Bob the drunk guy. This is pretty much all that's needed. If you weren't engaged listening there, you would hear that.
Mm-hmm. You would, and not just hear, but also you would live more in feelings of inspiration and creativity. You know, one of the big things that my clients come to me with is just this, you know, they feel like they're lacking vitality in their work life or their career life, or in all parts of life, really. They feel that if they could just fix the career thing, if they could just get their coaching business going, or if they could just get out of their day job, or if they could just get their relationship working, and whilst that's an innocent sort of idea that if you fix that external, then you'll feel more inspired. The place that you really want to look at is, you know, where am I engaged in my head? Because as we are less engaged in the insecure voice, we just naturally feel inspired because it's who we are. It's like you started with that, Dominic, you know, who we really are is a feeling of aliveness, a feeling of vitality, a feeling of enjoyment. And so there's just layers of thought that get in the way. But again, in our workshop, we'll break through a lot of that noise.
Yeah. I had with one client. It's interesting. People do these things, you know, people that kind of engage with us for different reasons. Had one client who the reason was he said, I've had this, he was working in a business kind of a consulting thing. And he said, I've been talking to my friends and my wife and all of that. I just keep talking about starting my own. I just keep talking about starting my own. And he said, and I said, so then why do you want to work with me? Like, what's that about? He said, I've been talking about it so long. And my wife just said to me, she said, look, you're either going to do something about this or you're going to shut up. And so he goes, so I want to have, you know, want to work with you because I want that one way or the other. And so I didn't have a plan. I didn't have like, you know, I was really working with him to see, because remember this question, do you know what you want? The most important discernment is this something coming because you hate your boss and you don't like your situation and you don't have enough money, and so as a reaction you want to start your own business thinking that it's going to solve all your problems? Or is this something else? Is this what you want? is this a pure desire that is wanting expression through you in such a way? And it was amazing, because just within a few conversations already, to Joy's point, already the coming alive, the phone calls he started to make, the registration of a company name, he had a fear about, how am I going to resign and talk to my boss? All of a sudden, when the desire is strong enough, all of your fears do not matter. All of your beliefs will not matter. As the desire is strong enough, all of that thought gets blown out of the way. And so it was an amazing experience of exactly this kind of thing. Yeah.
It's a great example. Yeah, it's a great example.
Why don't we get over to question and answer? But just as we do that, I'm going to post in here a link to, this is to the workshop. And so it's over 2 days. And we are from 9 for the Eastern time people, which is Toronto, New York, like the East Coast. So that is 9 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. on both days. So there's two 90-minute segments. We'll be doing a break in between on day 1 and day 2. We're doing it over a Saturday and a Sunday. November, is it 5, 6, 6, 7?
November 6th and 7th. Yeah. Saturday, Sunday.
On a Saturday, Sunday. And then what are those times in Europe, Grace?
So that would be 2 until 5:30 in the UK. Again, as Dominic said, that we'll have a break in between. It won't be a full 3.5 hours all in one go. But and anyway, I think we have the details on the page.
Yeah, they're all there on the page with the way we work.
Ultimately, I would also just invite you to consider that just being in the space with us for those 2 days is really something that will lift the lid on your experience of joy, creativity, inspiration, aliveness. I'm confident saying that, given what I've seen Dominic create through our calls together, and equally what he has seen me create through our calls together. Being together in the space in a deeper way, where we're actually exploring, this whole direction beyond the insecure thinking and into the feelings of joy, as well as going through the beautiful process, that an exercise that will take you through, so that you can define and know what your true desires are versus what you think society needs you to be focused on. It will just be a whole other world. So do check out the page. Do come join us. We have a gorgeous offer. For those of you signing up by Sunday evening, you'll get a bonus coaching session with myself or with Dominic, your choice. And there's also there's also, I think, $100 off at the moment, Dominic.
That goes until, yeah. So if you sign up before November 1st, it's $100, and there's a coupon code there, so you get $100 off. If you sign up by Sunday, this Sunday, then you'll get a coaching session, a private coaching session with either Grace or myself. You can your choice. And yeah, and just the last thing I'll say about that is I promise you won't learn anything from us during that entire time of the workshop. So I promise you won't learn a thing from us, not even steps. And if you do, I'd be sad, because that would be such a mistake if you thought you learned some steps. What will happen is we will create a space where you will explore something and resonate with something true within you, and that will come alive within you. So it will be all from you. At the end of that, what you'll see is it all came from within you if we do it right. and we've done it before, so we will. So, all right.
We'll get Bob out of the way. All right. So I think there's hands going up, Dominic, already.
Thanks. Yeah, and Bree, sorry. You just changed your spelling on your name. I know it's Bree.
Yeah, that's right. Hi. I'm sorry. I'm still in bed, so that's why the video's off. So I'm just lying here listening to you.
That's Vancouver for you.
Yeah, it's my day off, and I'm just like sleeping in. So anyways, but I've enjoyed listening to this. So my question is, and I guess Grace, you can probably really speak to this a bit. I noticed two experiences of life. One is kind of feeling like a victim, where you feel like life does bad things to you, or you're unhappy, or things aren't going right. And I don't know, I guess I've honed it down to this feeling of victimization, I guess, where things just don't feel like they're what we need or want, or they're not fulfilling. And then with that, there's kind of anger or upset. And a lot of people live in that. Like, there are definitely people that live in that almost all the time. And if you listen to their conversations, they're basically talking like they're victimized by life. You know, even they're victimized by the weather, they're victimized by their boss or by everything. And then there's this almost opposite experience of feeling like blessed, like feeling like life really loves me, and wow, things go so amazingly in my favor, and I'm, happy, and aren't I blessed? And look how things line up, and look how things work out, But there really seems like a divide sometimes between those two experiences. And I can in my own life feel like one way or the other quite strongly. So again, I guess I talk a lot about the gaps, because I just see the gaps sometimes in myself or life, or, how to move from that victim experience or perspective or feeling, I guess the feeling, like you were saying, over to this other, really feeling how blessed and how loved. And because I think that's part of the inner being, like my inner being seems to constantly point me towards, you're blessed, you're loved, even just by the universe, you're loved, and like there's such a huge gap, I think, between those two things. So how to move over to that, when someone's really living or feeling like victim, I don't know how to come over there, I guess, and live there more often, or live there a lot, or, most of the time, or whatever. I guess that's my question.
Grace, you had a very real experience of that.
Many. Which one are you referring to, Dominic?
Well, when Francesco left, I'm sure when his heart attack could have felt victim to all of that loss, and that was certainly not you creating it, right? So that you easily could be there.
Yeah. Well, and it's a great question, Bree, by the way. Thanks for your openness and honesty to bring that forward. The word that came to my mind as you were talking, because I really resonated with that, was, the sort of living in pity parties. And I never felt sorry for myself before. I've always been so harsh on myself. And so through the experience of losing Francesco, I noticed that I was getting into pity parties at times, and feeling victim to the situation. Now, here, to your question, how do you get out of that? I didn't stay in that too long, although when I was there, I tried not to judge it. But I didn't stay in it too long. It didn't keep me down too long, because the desire to feel better was always stronger than the desire to feel like a victim. And I think that's built into all of us, Bree, that there's this innate yearning for well-being. And it's our wisdom, really. It's our wisdom saying, oh, this feels awful. I mean, you know how awful it feels when you're in that victimization energy. This feels awful. I'd like to feel better. And so for me, I just noticed that the gap closed quite easily, because I just didn't like the feeling I was living in when I was in the pity party. And I just noticed myself wanting to feel better. And lo and behold, it seemed to me like I was, I would either, life would invite me to something that made me feel better, or I would, I would start feeling better automatically because of that desire. Lots of different simple things, but ultimately, I heard you say in your question, somewhere I heard you say, that, or I felt it from you, that you don't love hanging out in that victimization. You don't even like it when other people are hanging out there. So you don't have to worry about hanging out there. Like, if you were loving it and it felt great and you loved getting into the conversations with other people about their victim situations, if you loved pity parties, we wouldn't be having this conversation. You don't have to worry about yourself.
Yeah, I think, the other thing I would say, Bree, that is really important is to realize how I can't get the words. I was going to say how normal it is, but I don't mean normal. I mean, it is just what is so. When I say what so is, in this moment right now, each of you take a look in this moment right now, your life in this moment is, in this world at this time, is could be described as hell. You are living at a time with such divisiveness and polarity and horrible things going on in the world and all that, and in your own life with all kinds of disappointments. One side. And I also want to say that in this moment right now, living your life here on the earth at this time is the absolute best time to be alive right now. There has never been a better time to be alive, with more possibilities and more things available to you. And if you look around at your life, so much to be appreciated. So in my description there, all of that is true. All of that is true. And what you have a complete freedom to do is to focus on any part of that that you wish to experience. And as you focus upon it, you will feel it. You will feel the feeling of your focus. And the feeling you will feel will tell you the resonance and dissonance of what you have focused upon as it harmonizes with who you really are and all that you desire, or does not harmonize with who you really are and what you desire. That you will feel. And as Sydney Banks said, follow the feeling. It will lead you home. Follow the feeling. It leads you to all that you are.
Okay. Yeah, focusing. Yeah, that's true. I get that where we focus and what we focus on, we feel. That's really true. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one more little story just comes to mind, Bree, just to finish, might be helpful to everyone. But even just today when I went to the sea, I was sitting there and I was looking out at the sea and I was thinking, what the hell am I doing here without Francesco? what am I doing here? So I was, my focus was going into the loss and the lack a little bit. And then I just loved how wisdom just emerged without me trying to refocus my mind. Wisdom emerged with, oh, he's more present with you now than he ever was. It's just that you can't see him. Now, I didn't mentally come up with that. Like, I need to refocus. It's not good over here. I need to think positively over there. No, it just, this is what I love about wisdom. When Bob the drunk guy gets turned down a notch, which is what this is all about. When he gets turned down a notch, we have access to the most incredible information that is truthful and helpful and always sends us back to feelings of well-being and joy and aliveness. And there was a truth to that. There was a truth to that for me as I sat there looking at the sea. Yeah, he's more present than he ever was.
Thank you, Bree. And we'll take these 2 more questions and just for the time, and then we'll close. So John, you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Joe.
Hi.
Hey, good seeing you again.
Oh, yeah. So thank you so much for this. One of the things that resonated with me was one of the things that Grace said when she said that, am I supposed to feel this good after the death of my fiance? And I remember many years ago at the end of a relationship, I felt terrible. I woke up one morning and this thought came to me that said, the only reason I think I'm feeling bad is because I think I'm supposed to. Because if I didn't love this woman who had dumped me, then I have to feel bad because I'm no longer with her. And I noticed, to quote Grace, drunk Bob in my head keeps telling me what I'm supposed to feel. And I don't know if that, would you have any comments on that?
Oh, I love that.
Write a book on that one.
Oh, I love that. I don't know that I've ever, John, I love that. I don't know that I've ever heard it said that way. I mean, it's kind of like there's so many versions that this noise takes. I don't know that I've ever thought of it that way. It also takes the version of how you're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Exactly.
And this idea also, I struggled a bit with that too, John, this idea that people kept saying to me, well, the more you suffer, you're suffering because, it's the level of love that you had.
Yes.
And I thought that was weird. I just didn't connect with that at all. I was like, so we have society's ideas of what loss and grief and breakups and divorces and all of that should feel like. And yet, if who we are at our core is alive and joyful and happy and well, then what society is making up is completely in the other direction.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. And I love how see, that's such a good example, John, of what Grace said too, around what we're not talking about positive thinking. We're not talking about like, now you change your thinking. That's nonsense. You should come up with something better. But it's like, once you see the way you saw John, where it was like this realization, like all of a sudden this insight, it's funny because you almost laugh at it. Like, it's actually very funny. I guess that's why they say enlightenment means that you've lightened up. Like what you were upset about suddenly is funnier to you. And so, yeah, you notice this thought that's there, which suddenly it starts to appear perhaps a bit ridiculous. And then that opens you. So it's a little bit hard to continue to honor it and hold yourself there once it's revealed in that way. And then that kind of opens you up to, you know, if you're not listening to Bob the drum guy, then something else is also coming, which is from your wisdom, and you're more likely to hear that. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Joe. Great seeing you on again.
Hi, you're right.
Hey.
I can't quite get the question straight in my head, so I'm sorry if I'm not making sense. I just listening to you guys, and the bit where we have to refocus, and the bit where, see, like, yeah, is it the finite us that is doing the refocusing and is doing that kind of the focusing on feeling better and not listening to Bob and all that? Is that like our job as the finite part of us, or is even that done for us? Like,
Great question. Great question. Who else could it be?
Well, yeah, but I've just found myself,
right?
Yeah.
Who you really are doesn't have those troubles. Who you really are is not listening to Bob the drunk guy, right? It is the focused you from this perspective. By the way, the trouble with this, even the way we're having this conversation, but we have to, okay? So I just know we're all grown up enough, but the way we're having this conversation, it sounds like two of us that are separate. Meaning, is it me in this physical existence, or is it all that I am in this thing? Do you notice how it sounds like there's two of me separate from each other? It is indivisible, right? It is indivisible. You are living life. If I use a metaphor, you are living life. And are you a mother? Joe, you are. So you're a mother. And you probably, there's some vocation or career or something like that you have. Yeah. Are those, oh, and maybe you're in a relationship and that's something else. You're a daughter, right? So far I've carved you up into 4 things. Are those things separate?
No.
So this is. So is it the mother you that is focused on what your daughter is doing? Is that focus separate from the daughter you that is focused on what's going on with your mother, which is separate from the career woman you that is focused over there? So this is what I mean. It's all you. But there is a focus. Who's doing the focus? Really, who cares? But the point is, I mean, it's all you doing the focus, right? You, all that you are in a way is focused here. And sometimes when you focus on being a mom, you actually get lost in it. You think that that is all that you are. And you are lost in it, right? And at any time, if you pay attention to the feeling, it can wake you up to you are far more than that, right? Same with us here. We're focused. We feel the focus. Maybe this is another. We feel the focus through our finite perspective. Is it us, the finite perspective, doing it? Who cares? This is how it's felt.
Yeah, thanks.
Is that helpful?
It is. I just find myself trying to focus, and I don't know, it just feels like I'm not really moving forward, but that's, a separate issue. So don't worry.
And let's say, what do I do? The feeling. What do I do with this feeling? So am I supposed to focus different once I feel this feeling? So who's focusing here? Is it the finite me? I'm so confused, right? How many of me are there anyway, right? And what am I supposed to do? Well, what if I'm driving and I'm driving along? They put rumble strips on the road. So if I start to go off the road, I feel it. I feel the disharmony of it, right? The bumpiness of it. What do I do? What do I do? I don't know what you should do, but trust me, you'll know what you should do when you are out there. when you are out there driving the road with an intention to get someplace safely, and you pay attention to the feeling and you begin to feel the rumble strips, trust me, you'll know what to do. If you understand what the feeling means, you'll know what to do. You don't have to think about it now. You don't have to think about focusing. Oh, so should I focus back on the road? Don't worry about it. You'll know what to do.
Yeah, that helps. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
And Joe, I don't know if it adds a layer or not, but just in my example of today, while I was at the sea and I was starting to get into my pity party a little bit, I just noticed that the next thought came into my head without me needing to make it come into my head, which was, oh, but Francesco's more present now than he ever was. And it's kind of like if we get out of the way a bit, we just hear what we need to hear and do what we need to do. So just wanted to share that. I think we're at top of the hour, Dominic.
We are a few minutes over. And really, really appreciate everyone coming out. I'll put the link again in there because we hope to see some of you at our workshop in November. And so that link will give you the details. Once again, there's an early bird offer, $100 off by November 1st. And if you sign up by Sunday, midnight, we'll just do it end of day, right? Then a private coaching session either with me or with Grace. So yeah, we look forward to seeing some of you.
Thank you for your questions, everybody. They were great, and your presence and your I could really feel a lot of joyful, alive energy coming through. So thanks a lot. Great to have been here.
Awesome. Yes, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.